If someone were to ask me what my most used build in the Division 2 is, I'm pretty much going to have to say Hunter's Fury. Now, of course, I've gone through a couple different iterations of the build. I've changed up some things, tried to tweak what I like, what I don't like, just try to get more damage with the same amount of shield health, whatever. And this build does offer pretty much everything I want in a shield build. It has a really tanky shield with good uptime. It has some good self-healing. And of course, it also can deal some really good damage for a build that's not really invested priority number one into damage. Now, of course, since I've had this build or something like it for over a year and a half, I have wanted to experiment with something different. But there's really nothing that I can add at this time that really makes Hunter's Fury feel much different or, vastly improved over any of its current forms. And this is kind of where Heartbreaker comes in. Obviously, like I said in a few videos ago, Heartbreaker and Hunter's Fury are kind of very similar, right? They kind of do that same thing where they give you the damage and they give you the sustainability. And obviously, as many of us know, you are able to get more damage from Heartbreaker than you are from Hunter's Fury. So with this in mind, I was kind of like, you know what, I could probably build a very similar style build, just improving on what I actually want and what I actually need. Now, even with the slight nerf or fix to Heartbreaker, obviously the stacks are no longer multiplicative with themselves, they're additive, so you get 100% when you have 100 stacks versus 170% when you have 100 stacks. But the set is still capable of putting out a good amount of damage without really focusing on damage, which is exactly what I want in a Crusader build. No, it's not going to be the belle of the ball in terms of actual raw damage, but as a solo player mainly, it is going to be more than enough to get the job done. When I actually originally approached this build, I was kind of worried about the lack of skill power on it. I really want more skill power, and one of the Hunter Fury builds that I built originally was actually like Future Fury or something like that. But what I had was Future Perfect on my weapons, and this allowed me to basically, through damage, gain skill tiers. So I didn't really need to spend too much on skill tier, and I could get a good amount of damage to build those skill tiers, and then that would just improve my shield or my artificer or my drone or whatever. And that was a great kind of balance, right? Because I was focused on damage and a little bit of tankiness, and then once I actually started getting a kill or two, that's when my real tankiness kind of kicked in. However, with Heartbreaker's bonus armor not really being a healing source, right? It can prevent damage from happening to you, but it doesn't heal you per se. So because of this, I pretty much knew that I was going to have to invest heavily into armor, because that is the main source, unlike Hunter's Fury, where, on kill you get armor back. With Heartbreaker, of course, it's every hit gives you a certain amount of bonus armor. But like I said, the problem with this is not actually healing, so to build a build one for one, just like Hunter's Fury was, it kind of fell short. So I ended up going back to the drawing board a little bit. This time I used the Carbine 7, obviously with Flatline. That gives me more RPM, just kind of like a better weapon overall, especially at distance, than my Hunter's Fury with the SMG. And of course I went with the Mop. Now the Mop obviously gives me that armor on kill for its attribute, and I decided to, instead of do Future Perfect, roll Preservation, which gives me 10% armor over 5 seconds, and if I get a headshot kill, that's an additional 10%, so I can get roughly 30% on kill if it's a headshot. Now looking at the individual pieces, my mask, Heartbreaker, obviously armor, crit chance, and a crit damage mod. Now my chest piece has got weapon damage, crit chance, and a crit chance mod. Of course, having the chest piece gives me that ability to have 100 stacks. My holster is rolled with skill tier, and it has critical hit chance. My knee pads, again another armor with crit chance. My backpack, of course, just like my Hunter's Fury build, I decided to go with Memento. Obviously that gives me the weapon damage, that gives me the armor tier and the skill tier, which is great for my shield, and we all pretty much know this. I mean, this is just a great piece for the shield because of all the bonuses that it gives you. Obviously, 2 tiers on the shield, skill efficiency for more shield health, a skill tier for the hive, the skill efficiency for hive healing. I mean, it's just hands down one of the best pieces in the game for any build who's looking to use a tanky shield as part of their build, as part of their actual playstyle. I mean, hands down, it's just one of the best. Maybe not so much in groups, but at least for a solo player, it is just amazing. And of course, like I said, healing is definitely one of the priorities for a shield build. I decided to go with the Death Grips, the 511 tactical named items that have armor on kill, and it's also rolled with crit chance. So in short, what this means is that if I get a kill with my mop, I have the ability to get roughly 40% armor on kill. 20% of that's going to be over 5 seconds, but 20% of it is going to be immediate. Obviously, this is kind of what you want because of Hunter's Fury. Obviously, you get that 20% armor on kill, which obviously comes in incredibly handy with a Hunter's Fury build. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that has made the difference between surviving or dying. It is really beneficial, even though it might not actually look like that. And armor on kill is generally not something that I like on my build, but when I'm trying to make a build that is really good, well, that's just part of the reason that it's good. So I need to kind of implement that. I need to kind of build into that, because that just allows me to recover any damage that happens to me while I've got the shield out, right? The shield's obviously going to take most of the damage, but it's really hard to avoid all sources of damage. And being able to have this shield up while you're still recovering armor and health, and you've got regen from Memento, and you've got armor on kill, that just makes the build more effective. It makes it more beneficial to you as a player. Now, of course, it's not invincible, but it definitely works really well. Now, of course, there's a couple things that we should probably look at or examine more closely. One, I'm not going to say that it's better than Hunter's Fury. It's just not. I mean, it has its benefits. It has, a unique difference to it. But overall, I'm not going to say that this is going to replace my Hunter's Fury build. What I will say, though, is that if you are somebody who's looking for a build that's like Hunter's Fury, but you always hated using an SMG, or you hated having to be that close to enemies, this would probably be a good compromise, because obviously you don't rely on being up close to get that damage buff like Hunter's Fury does. So because of that, if you want something that's longer range with a full automatic weapon, especially one that's, high RPM, this can definitely set you in the right spot. Now, of course, we all know that building stacks is, harder the further you are away. Obviously, if you're not using the ACS 12, then of course it's, takes a good deal longer, but it's still something. It's definitely better than Hunter's Fury at long range, regardless of the weapon. Now, obviously, in exchange for that disorient feature, what we're going to get with Heartbreaker is the bonus armor. Now, while that's better per se, and when you're taking actual damage, I don't think as a whole the bonus armor is better than being able to just disorient the enemies that are actually shooting at you, right? I think disorient does prevent you from taking more damage than the bonus armor does. So again, it's kind of a toss-up. What do you prefer? What do you need? What would you like more? What I would say is this. The reason I use Hunter's Fury is for farming heroics, farming summit, farming control points, whatever. It's pretty quick, pretty easy, painless, run and gun. I don't really have to think about things. I don't have to plan. I can just run at the enemy and get rewards, get loot. But of course, the downside with that is, as pretty much most people know, Hunter's Fury is not necessarily the greatest thing for legendary content. And this is, of course, because getting kills is a little bit harder. Obviously, enemies are tankier, they're more dangerous, and sometimes that armor on kill bonus is just not enough. In terms of actual usability in a legendary, Hunter's Fury does fall a little bit flat, especially if you're playing with a team. Again, you have to have the adjustments to, multiplayer, health on the AI, and the increase to their damage and all that stuff. So, of course, that has an impact, right? And then you're competing with kills. But when you're looking at Heartbreaker, you don't need to get as close, which means the set is much less risky. You're able to actually play behind cover a little bit more with an AR from distance and still get most of the benefits from your set's weapon damage. So, in this sense, it can be a little bit better for legendaries, especially if you're trying to peek out, take out the, explodey drones that are coming at you, those suiciders. You actually have the ability to do that while not taking damage directly. Your shield is tanky enough to peek out and shoot things. And that's great. You can use this build as kind of an off tank for a legendary. Obviously, you probably want to have a main tank still. But you can stick out of cover and still deal damage while your main tank is taking most of it. And of course, this just means that you can keep shooting and you don't have to stop firing. And of course, that's really how a tanky build can catch up to a DPS build in terms of damage. I don't need to duck down as much. I don't need to medkit as much. I can fire for longer. So in that aspect, yeah, maybe this build would excel Hunter's Fury in a legendary, but for day-to-day activities, I think I'm probably just going to stick to my Hunter's Fury build. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.